So some of you may know, I'm currently out of town at the moment. And because of that, I'm having to scramble to try to decide what type of videos do I want to make for this week. And I realized I haven't made this video yet, which is a Grand Summoner Super Awoken tier list video. Or what I'm really going to be calling it, who you should save for. However, with this who to save for compared to others, I'm going to really be trying to talk about every single Super Awoken unit that has came out so far. So you can kind of get like the best impression possible. Now, I will say, take this with a little bit of a grain of salt because I do not play the Japanese version of the game. However, I am pretty well versed. We have the categories of must-have, strong, good, okay units, and probably just a DPS. You may be asking, why is there not like SAB or whatever? Most Super Awoken characters are very strong. There's not too many bad Super Awoken characters, but one thing that is very apparent in the Super Awoken era is how many characters are just damage dealers, or they're not doing much for their team. There's not too much utility going around like how there are currently with the Awoken characters. So let's start out with the man himself, Ainz. This is not the first Super Awoken character, of course, but this guy is actually very strong. Like, I would say Ainz is arguably in between must-have and a strong tier. Reason being is Ainz is a character that is a magic damage dealer. He's a support unit. He's able to arch in for his team. He gives more art gauge if you're a demon ally. He also can buff up crit rate, or not buff up crit rate, my bad. He reduces the enemy's crit resist, and he's able to buff up everybody's crit damage, and dark allies get even more crit damage. I would argue that he's probably a must-have, but I would say he's borderline. Like must-have. I may put him at the very end of must-have, depending on who else is in the must-have tier, but yeah, this guy, a lot of people were upset with like how he was as a unit, which I don't see why, because he is extremely good. Having one of the best debuffs in the entire game, being crit resist down, having all the extra art gauge and everything, I love this unit. The only thing that's weird to me, he has a passive that buffs up everybody's crit rate by 20%, but he reduces crit resist by 100%, so like, what's the point of having the 20% crit rate as a passive? I mean, I guess it is what it is. It might come in handy once in a blue moon. Next is Albedo. Unfortunately, I didn't use the other artwork for this, but Albedo was pretty interesting as a unit. So this character, whenever she first got shown off, we all thought she was going to be extremely broken if you were around for that time, because it said that she was giving like up to 30% damage resist plus like an extra 60% damage res for everyone. We were like, what the heck? A unit that just gives a 90% DR? But now what she is that she is a very defensive unit, but for demon allies. She's very keen on giving demon units damage resist, but not everyone else. And she has some okay damage potential. She actually can be a pretty solid nuker if you need her to be because of her super arts, but she's not like the craziest unit known to man. So I'm gonna say she's probably like a good unit. I wouldn't say she's terrible. Actually, you know what? Just because of her limited damage resist on her true art and stuff like that, I'm gonna put her as an okay unit. If her damage resist was for more people, then I would definitely put her higher. Aristella Orbis, arguably the best looking artwork in the entire game so far. This character is weird because she is an Archgener, and she does do a lot for her team in terms of debuffs and everything else, but one thing I don't like is that her super art to me just seems kind of useless. It's a ramping damage buff that's permanent, and it's a 30% stats up buff. The thing that I don't like about it is it's tied to the super art, and I don't think you're going to be able to get that much benefit out of it most of the time, and I think that's just kind of a wasted part of her kit. I think for most people, they're going to be using the true art and the art. Another thing to mention too is that her multipliers are very low. Like for most other Super Awoken characters, their super arts are usually hovering around like the 100k mark, and she only has like 80k on the super art, and then the true art is only like 40,000. So I'm going to say this character is okay. If you wind up getting her, I think that she'll probably just be like an Archgener for you. Next, BF Mira, or Blaze Fire Mira? Is that what she's called? Blazing Fire Mira, that's her name. But BF Mira for short. Animation-wise, I think it's like a 10 out of 10. I love her animations. As for her actual kit, though, she's pretty solid. She has a lot of versatility in the kit in terms of art gauge. She can go on the offensive very quickly with the super art, which is very strong. And she has super crits built into her kit too, which is another new mechanic that's going to be coming with the Super Awoken era. The first character that's going to have it is actually Wargod Fen. But she has super crits, which deal, I think, 3 times damage instead of the regular 1.5 or 1.25 that crits do. So that's pretty broken. The only problem with this character, I would say, is her slots. Her slots are kind of trash. trash. She has just physical and magic slots, which do help out her damage, but nothing to necessarily help out the supporting part of her. So I'm gonna say she's like good. She's not necessarily amazing. She's not necessarily bad, but very, very strong. This character gets extremely strong though if we're including another Super Awoken unit in the argument, but we're not at that unit yet, so we'll talk about that whenever we get to it. Demon King Vox. This is an interesting one, man, because a lot of people don't like this character or think that he's kind of whack. And I think that he is actually not too bad. Actually, this version of Vox doesn't require Magia Drive anymore, which is kind of weird, but I like it personally. And he's a character that's all about buffing up demon units and working with demon units. He has all 5-star slots. He's able to have a 5-star support slot as well. And for any demon team, he's a must-have. Now, if you are making a demon Super Awoken team, you're going to want this Vox on there because he buffs up everybody's stats by like 60% if you're a demon unit. He archgens passively for demon characters as well. He has built-in lifesteal to his kit, and he's going to be a very strong just damage dealer for the demon allies. But if you're not using him in a demon team, then I think he significantly falls off to probably just like a DPS tier or like the OK tier. Next is the newest girl, Illya. Now, the fake characters did just come out, and I'm going to be honest, I have used Illya a little bit on JP. I did make a JP account and I have used her, and she's pretty good. I like her. The main problem I have with this character is that she's very strong in terms of archgenning and supporting the team, but she doesn't have a 5-star support slot. She does have a 4-star support slot if you can get the LB high enough. The supporting capability is okay. It's not amazing, and her damage potential can be kind of crazy too, since her super art buffs up her damage up to like 300% based on how much HP you have. But it's not just for the super art, it actually lasts for like 20 seconds after you use the super art. So it's very potent, and she's a good unit. She's not necessarily strong. She would be good. She would be a strong unit if she had the 5-star support slot, but since she doesn't, it does hurt her just a little bit. But once you get this character going, amazing. You know what? Screw it. I'm putting her in strong. She's a strong character. I said it. Now, Jay has been the talk of the town recently because of his crazy 200 art gauge that he gets per round. And he's very good in a lot of general content. He's also a very good like auto character. You can use him in a lot of different Crest Palace nukes. He's a very good, don't want to say quality of life unit. I don't know if that's what I would call him. He's just very strong. But if you really get down to like the nitty gritty of it, this guy is mainly a damage dealer that isn't offering too much for your team. And if you don't need like his damage or his damage resist down on the true arts, and you probably aren't going to use him, I would put him in probably just a DPS tier. But due to the fact that he has a very strong utility in all these different auto comps, I would say he is just an okay unit. Next is Kirisame. He's a must-have character. He's like a regular taunt tank, you know, where he's able to cover everybody, put up a barrier for himself. But he has a lot of stuff in his kit that actually revolves around damage resist. Like, he's able to stack a ton of damage resist for himself. He is a third eye character, and his third eye is so easy to activate. His third eye just requires you to have another human ally on the team. That's it. What is that condition? That's not even a condition. And whenever he gets in his third eye, he gets 30% DR. But if you're fighting an enemy that is burning, you get an extra 20% DR, and then you get an extra 20% DR on top of it if you are in true third eye. So in total, you're getting 70% damage resist if all those conditions are fulfilled. Not only just that, this character is the only tank in the game that's able to cleanse a damage resist debuff on himself. You know, like those debuffs that make you take more damage? Yeah, he cleanses those. That is the main way bosses are able to break through these units, and the fact that he can just say, nope. The only bad part about this unit is that he is a character that does want to burn the enemy, and one thing in the Super Awoken period you're going to start seeing with later boss fights, that a lot of bosses are just going to be almost straight immune to status effects. A lot of status effect characters get like gutted in the Super Awoken period, which it doesn't matter too much for him. He still does have that passive physical resist, and he also still does have the passive just regular damage resist buff. But that is something to take into account, that you may not be able to get that burning DR happening all the time. But for most fights in the game, he trivializes it. Next is going to be Kokuri. I said Kokuri. It's not Kokuri. It's Kokuri. Or I'm just going to call her Kuri, because I feel like if I say Kokuri too many times, I'm going to get my tongue twisted. Overall, she's just a damage dealer, man. She's not really offering a lot for the team. She's a very strong nuker, and she can also be a very strong just regular sustained damage dealer. It relies a lot on other characters to really get a lot of oomph out of her. I will say this unit's animations is dope, but she's mainly just a beat stick. Same with Long. Unfortunately, Long, he does have the bleed stacks. He is able to do lots of damage. He has the potential to do some of the craziest damage you've ever seen, but he's just a beat stick. And in order for him to even like pop off, you have to get to 2 stacks of bleed. And the way how you apply your bleed is not through your skill, it's not through your art, it's through your true art. Who thought that was a good idea? If you don't really care about the true art, you can just use them for a super art to get like the massive 100% water resist down, which I think is what most people are going to be doing if they use them. Outside of like those niche nuking situations, maybe like the few times you want to try to use them in like a sustained comp, I don't think he's going to be doing much for your team. He's just a damage dealer. And Valentine's Day Miranda. Whew. Let me tell you something. Remember how I told you guys that status effects got gutted? This unit might have been the reason for that. Miranda was all about poisoning the enemy. If you poison the enemy, you got a massive 160% physical resist down if the enemy was poisoned when the super art went off. And that wasn't enough. She also had 120% damage up against poison enemies. Whenever she first came out, I would say she was arguably a very strong unit. But now, since a lot of bosses are starting to counter poison characters and they're not as good, I would say she's an okay character. If you can't poison a boss, she loses most of her value. Even with the people like making the argument of, oh, you could just lower the boss's status res to like an abysmal amount, but at that point I feel like you're wasting so many resources to try to like build into this super art that you're probably better off just using like another character where you don't even have to worry about this. Next, Narberal, or her last name, what is it? Isn't it Gamma, from what people have told me? This is a unit that relies on demon allies, but also is a supporting character that relies on the leader slot unit. So whoever the leader is, whenever she pops her true art, will get a massive buff. By massive, I mean, for one, you get arts damage plus 200% and damage res by 30%. So very strong as a unit to buff up like a tank unit's damage capabilities and tanking capabilities, but also very strong as a character that just kind of buffs up like maybe a nuker's damage potential. If this 200% arts damage buff was to everyone, or this damage res buff was to everyone, I would say she would be a must-have character. But since she relies mostly on demon allies and she also relies on a leader slot, she's a little bit finicky in that regard. I would say she's good. I would say she's actually at the top of good. A part of me wants to put her in strong. She's very good in the utility department. Like, she offers so much support to the team. But I'm going to say, you know what, screw it. Next, this was the unit I was talking about and hinting at so much. Valentines Day Priscilla is one of the better characters we've gotten so far. She's a character that's able to help out the team a ton. Like, the skill even provides a buff to the team. Even though it's accuracy, it's still a buff to the team. The art's able to heal plus cleanse everybody apart from disease and faint. The true art's able to reduce like fire resist, and it arch gens for everyone if your HP is above 50%. Which shouldn't be too hard, especially since she has like a 50% max HP heal in her kit. The super art's able to give your team a massive 150% physical damage buff on top of 30% DR. And she has a passive that really like helps her kind of arch gen, since it gives her 4 arts per second. And she also has like Fire Master, so she's able to buff up all fire allies damage by 30%. This character's strong. This is a character that enables all the other fire units. If you are a physical fire damage dealer, you're going to want Valentine's Day Priscilla. I would argue she's actually here, maybe also with Ainz, while she's borderline like must have. Another one that just came out recently was actually Rin. Also, Luvia is here too. You just can't see her. I mean, you can kind of see her. You see the little like corner of her like ribbon or whatever in her hair. Now, Rin is a character that is also somewhat of a supporting unit, but also more of this DPS kind of unit. She, I think, is a very good unit. She's able to give her team art gauge on the skill. There's 4 arts instantaneously for everyone. She's also able to stack up a lot of damage for the team, because if she burns an enemy, she buffs up everyone's damage by 30% just flat out. She's also able to provide a massive 150% magic damage buff and magic resist down. The only problem that I have with this Rin is she's a character that relies on fire allies, or she wants to be with fire allies, of course. Most fire allies are physical damage dealers, which kind of sucks. Even though the super art may not be able to be used too much, it will be a benefit to her if you ever want to use it. And even though this unit is a character that scales off of status effects, and we've talked about that, if you scale off of status effects, it kind of sucks. I don't think it's that bad, because she is also offering that massive magic damage buff. So it's not like that's the only thing she can do. She's a solid unit, very good. I like her a lot. Ren's gonna be in the good tier. Sword Demon Berwick, the Virgil of Grand Summoners, what some people call him because of his artwork. So here's my dilemma with Sword Demon Berwick. Sword Demon Berwick is a character that relies a lot, and I mean a lot, on arch generation. First and foremost, you have to activate his Magia Drive. His Magia Drive, whenever you activate it, it will give him a 100% attack buff. Then you need to use his art, which will activate Magia Drive Unlimited. When he's in Magia Drive Unlimited, he gets a 50% damage buff. But now, you need to go back into probably his true art, because his true art gives 200% physical damage buffs to everyone for 30 seconds. And then you may want to go into the super art that gives yourself 100% defense ignore, and it buffs up your damage by 50%. This character is just a damage dealer at best. He has some potential as being more of a supporting kind of fire ally, but I think if he doesn't have characters like Fire Priscilla or a BF Mira or any other kind of like supporting characters on the team, he's going to feel very lackluster because he doesn't even have art gauge on the skill. The only thing that artgens in his kit is his art, and it's only 20 art gauge, brother. Another character that is pretty broken is Senki. You may not heard too much about Senki, or I think like the other name she goes by is Hazuki. Has a lot of stat buffs in her kit, like up to 150% physical damage buff with the art. She's also able to buff up everybody's arts damage by like 130% and damage res by 30%. And with the super art, she's able to reduce the enemy's light resist by like 100%. Yeah, she does a lot for herself. She's kind of the opposite of Berwick, to be honest. Because if you get her in her third eye, which this is a third eye character, you increase her art gauge by 5 per second. So she's able to like be self-sufficient for herself. She's a very offensive attacker that's more of like a sub-attacker, where she has a lot of like supporting capabilities in the kit with like damage buffs. So I would say this character is an okay unit. I think she's better than Miranda. She has more versatility than Jay, but I don't think she's better than like Demon King Vox and them. And also I think, well, I don't think Aristella is better than Demon King Vox. And I don't think Albedo is either. Okay, yeah, this is the better list right here. Actually, wait, no, there we go. Wait, actually, you know what? We'll do this. There we go. Okay. Actually, we'll do this. Boom. There. It's fixed. Star God Liza. Must have. This character is able to art gauge for everyone with the skill, and her skill is actually a 2-part skill. She's able to give herself 30 art gauge, and then she's able to archgen for her team over time. With the art, you're able to reduce the enemy's magic resist, which is kind of bland. Then with the true art, it's like the other Lisa, where you're buffing up equipment CT, and then this time around, you're also buffing up light allies damage by 150%. And then with the super art, you're able to buff up everybody's magic damage based on your current HP percentage, and this lasts for 15 seconds. Not only this, someone at Next Ninja thought it was a great idea to allow her to have a mechanic called Ether Recast. What this allows you to do is you are able to reset the cooldown of an equip once. Every single equip that she has on herself, which she has a 6-star magic, a 5-star support, and a 4-star magic or a 4-star heal, depending on what you want, she's able to use all of her equips and then hold down on them and recast them again instantaneously. That is extremely strong, like in terms of support, in terms of archgen, everything. Another thing too, she's able to hit the ground running since she has a passive that also gives her 50 art gauge at the start of the quest. Overall, I would say she's one of the best characters in the game. Like, I'm going to actually put her above Kiri because I think she's going to enable a lot of team comps. Kiri, amazing, going to be able to trivialize a lot of stuff. She's arguably one of the best, if not the best, super Awoken character in the game. Alongside another character, which we'll go ahead and talk about, Wargod Fen, the first super Awoken character to come out, and I'm just going to go ahead and put him where he belongs. I would argue these two right here are in a tier of their own. With the amount of utility and the amount of supporting capabilities these guys offer, they are a very potent combination. And even if you use them both on the team, they're going to be able to benefit each other quite a bit. But the reason why Wargod Fen is so potent as this character is that he's a unit that's able to buff up equipment CT as well with his art. He also is able to give the team crit rate, and he is a archgener. He's going to be the first unit to introduce the super crits into the game, which, as we know, does stupid amounts of damage. It also introduces the first leader skill into the game that's able to provide his team with a 30% damage resist for 45 seconds of the quest, which may not sound that crazy, but you guys gotta think, that is just free DR. And you gotta think, if you're using someone like Kiri alongside him, and you're able to get Kiri into his like third eye state, that is so much passive DR just for the first 45 seconds that's like, why even use a defense equip? This character also shares some of his Dark Fin capabilities because he's able to buff up everybody's art gauge by 50 at the start of the quest, and he's able to buff up allies damage to enemies with 50% or lower HP by 30%. One of the best in the game, literally the GOAT. And he's not going to fall out of favor for a very long time because we don't have a lot of like supporting characters yet in the Super Awoken period. You can see a lot of the characters that are rated pretty high on the list. If they're rated kind of lower, then you see they're not really offering a lot for the team, and they're just like another kind of stat stick, right? They're just a damage dealer and nothing's really popping off with them. And I think that's one thing you're going to really like value a lot in the Super Awoken period are characters that are Super Awoken Awoken, and they're able to provide like so many benefits for the team. Not just, oh, I do tons of damage, support me please. Talking about a character that does tons of damage though, Shalltear is able to deal some of the craziest damage I think you've ever seen in this game. She is a character that relies on clones, and the way how she activates her clones is by using her super art. Then she creates a body double. That body double will then mimic everything she does from her arts and her skill. It does not mimic her equips though, so take that into account, which translates to this character dealing some insane damage. Like her true art only is 90,000%, but technically it's 18, or not 18, my bad, 180,000%. She's very self-sufficient in the sense that she provides herself 100% crit rate right out the gate, and she's able to give herself 50 art gauge at the start of the quest, so it jumpstarts her a little bit. This character is a very just damage dealing type of character, and as you see, like with this list going so far, you can see I don't really value just like selfish damage dealers too much, but I will say if there is any damage dealer you want to pick up from the Super Awoken period, it would be Shalltear, because Shalltear is just one of the greats. I would say it's arguably probably Shalltear and Senki, and this would be my list right here. This is the characters that I would say I'm going to be going for and striving for. Of course, we still do have the rest of the fake characters coming out, so we don't know what they're going to be doing yet. But for right now, this is the list I have, and I'm pretty happy with this. You know, I think it's pretty good. I like it. And tell me down below what you guys think. A little bit of a different type of video for the Should You Summons, but I think people would appreciate this more than just telling you, oh, these characters are good, and then kind of like disregarding the other Super Awoken characters. Because in this era, I feel like you're not going to really be disregarding any of the characters from the Super Awoken period, because all of them are just so fantastic in their own way. Either way, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you all again for coming out. It's been your boy P. If you enjoyed this video, I highly recommend check out either one of the videos popping on the screen right now. Great content, guarantee you love them. And oh, one more thing. Don't forget to drink water.